So we're taking a slightly different format tonight in that we aren't talking about one book. We will be talking about two books that are very important. So prepared, that are very
Just hugging it
important.
all night.
I mean, I've got one out. Oh no, hang on. Okay.
These are my signed copies, Sophie.
Now you're just
They have been marked by the author herself. Me.
So, two books that are very important to Chaya and I. Very important, doesn't really do it justice, I suppose. I'm going to be starting by talking about The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So The Song of Achilles is, in essence, a retelling of the Trojan War. It focuses on the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus, who in some retellings or discussions, it's considered that Patroclus is Achilles' very close friend or his cousin, but in this, he is very much a friend who becomes his lover. It is an exquisite retelling of the story. There is so much about it that I wish I could say. What I will say firstly is that this was a book that was actually on my shelf for around 2 years, and I never picked it up. I didn't really have an interest in mythology. I think that was largely because I never had the opportunity to study it in school. And now, having got started with a book called The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, it kind of it opened the door to me, and I now feel like I wish I had had the opportunity to study the classics. And then, but these books have been my way in, and I have to tell you, The Song of Achilles completely blew my mind. I mean, I could go on about Madeline Miller's beautiful writing, but the relationship that she conveys between these two men against the backdrop of the Trojan War, but also long before that, is, I think, totally unparalleled.
So I really agree with you. So you know that I studied Latin out of school and was always in love with the classics, but I have friends who did classics university who can literally quote, right, in Latin and Greek, Virgil and Homer. They are obsessed with these books. And then I have friends who have no classical education whatsoever. And for them, it's just, as you say, has kind of given them an insight into the all-stars of Greek mythology, particularly with Circe. Because Achilles and Patroclus are very well known. There's been films about them. But Circe kind of widened their perspective, and they love these books as much as someone with a massive historical and classical background. Yeah, therefore everyone.
I really think that's the key. You don't need to have the knowledge. For me, after I started reading these books, it then actually encouraged me to go and start reading the Iliad, which I am now reading on the side of this, which I think sort of shows how impactful these novels are. What I would say that particularly struck me about The Song of Achilles is that though, as you say, Chaya, the Battle of Troy, it's a story that's been very much told. What you don't hear very much about is Patroclus himself. You know that he's a kind man. You do hear about him, but what you know more than anything is Achilles' grief when he dies. And I think that's sort of the point, because that reflects just how important this man is to Achilles. And that's kind of the seed from which I suppose this all germinates effectively.
Absolutely, and so much would have been different if Achilles hadn't gone into battle. Would Troy have fought? You know. So he's such an integral character.
And they're so different. I think that's the point. You've got Achilles, the ferocious warrior, and then Patroclus, kind and always gentle. But you see how they grow up together, because Patroclus is also born a prince like Achilles, but he's exiled because he accidentally kills a child when he is a child and is sent to the palace where Achilles is being raised, and how they become closer in that context and then end up on the battlefield together which, you know, and as that reaches its climax, it's just incredibly powerful. And although this is a story about gods and humans, and also those who are part god and part human, like Achilles himself, it's something, there is something in there that anyone can relate to, you know. So after 18 months of having this on my bookshelf without having read it, when I finally got to it, I could not put it down. I really couldn't put it down.
So for me, these are always going to be two of my favourite books I've ever read, and Madeline Miller will always be in my heart, and that sounds ridiculous. I met her in 2019. She had just published Circe, and she said that it was in a reading in an amazing Daunt bookshop in town, and sitting next to people, and she said that even though it had taken her 7 years from the publishing of Song of Achilles in 2011 to Circe, she felt like she had been in training and researching her entire life, because she has this you know, background as a classical teacher and director of Shakespeare plays. For me, these books are pure silk. It's as if they haven't been written, they were just there and created, because they are so ethereal and beautiful and magical. What I love about this is that, so first of all, they are fiction. The references to Circe in the Odyssey are fleeting. She is in essence the encapsulation of male anxiety about women with power, because a witch equals men as pigs. But she is this conflicted character, because she's a goddess, though one of the lowest ranking. So you see the hierarchies in the court of Helios, her father. But then she's a witch, and she has to harness those powers. And in reality, this book, Circe, I will bring it up, is a tale of subjugation that forms into complete empowerment, and is her journey from this very controlled character who's at the will of these capricious gods
to this functional family that she's part of, that you feel so bad for her.
You do, but this is what Miller does so well, because Circe is basically related to every all-star in the Greek mythological world. She can plant her in the big things. So you've got the Minotaur, you've got Icarus, you've got Jason. Obviously, you know, Odysseus is one of the main characters that she's linked with. But you know, you get this incredible insight into all of these different things that happened. And you know, Madeline Miller utilises every source. You know, she is referencing everything. She's using archaeological artefacts that she's found to kind of give it this hint of authenticity, but it has this mysticism. You've also got the fact that she has been exiled, and how she finds her own way. And I mean, for me, you've got the popularization of a story that's thousands and thousands of years old, and it's brought to life characters that I studied as a 15-year-old, that I now feel like I know them, because I've got this.
But that's the great point, is that you studied them as a 15-year-old, and for you to read about them in this way, it's obviously hugely meaningful. Whereas somebody like me, who, you know, now in my 30s, feels like they were kind of a bit robbed of that opportunity in their school years, but can touch in now and really connect with them. Well, it shows, obviously, that we know the Greek myths are extremely powerful and fascinating, but what Madeline Miller does is she makes them accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter how much you know, how little you know, you can read and fall in love with these.
They are pure magic. Yeah. And everyone reads them, regardless of their background. They are so accessible. And Circe is going to be made into a TV show, so hopefully it's not kind of changed in any which way. And
we are waiting for the next book, Madeline Miller.
Says that she's about she knows so many different characters so well. You've got like Persephone, you've got Ariadne, you've got Medea, you've got Penelope, you've got all these characters. I think Madeline Miller should just be, you know, tasked to write every year. I need a book every year from her, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they are absolutely stunning, and if you think that Greek myth isn't your thing, you know,
this could be any Netflix drama.
It could change it. It could change everything, because really it did for me. Absolutely.
Go read them.
Absolutely. Enjoy. I'm a bit jealous.